Although it isn't among China's 4 great classics, it is clear that the author intended to consolidate the origins and fates of all mythological figures, both familiar and obscure, in one work. While the author's writing style may not be as refined as Journey to the West, their creativity is boundless. Before delving into the Investiture of the Gods, it's helpful to grasp its general plot. The Investiture of the Gods is a fantasy novel rooted in a mythological world, and the author's perspectives and values shape its themes. After reading the entire novel, what stands out most is the author's extreme satire of feudal monarchies and the supremacy of royal authority. Whether it's Journey to the West, Flowers in the Mirror, or others, the essence of China's mythological novels often centers on satire. Journey to the West was published during the Jiang era of the Ming Dynasty, and its success led to a wave of similar tales across China. While the Investiture of the Gods has a grander universe and more deities than Journey to the West, it undeniably draws inspiration from the latter. The Investiture of the Gods lacks a main storyline or a singular protagonist who shifts the plot. The whole book feels more like an event log, recording events in a straightforward, novelistic manner without a complex narrative. Thus, while readers can see the strength of individual gods, the wisdom of sages is rarely highlighted. This video will provide a brief introduction to the assembly of Chinese deities in the Investiture of the Gods. The novel is also known as the Canonization of the Gods, the Chronicles of the Shang and Zhou Kingdoms, and the unofficial history of King Wu's campaign against Zhou. The author is unknown. Now, onto the story. King Zhou of Shang, the last ruler of the Shang dynasty in Chinese history, is depicted from the start as depraved and corrupt. While worshipping the goddess Nuwa, King Zhou is captivated by her statue's beauty. Overcome with lust, he writes a poem on the palace wall mocking Nuwa. This act infuriates her. The Nuwa in the Investiture of the Gods is not the same as the goddess who mended the heavens in classical Chinese mythology. Here, Nuwa is the queen of all demons. King Zhou is the king of humans. After this offensive act, Nuwa summons 3 spirits who guards Wan Yuan tomb. The 9-headed pheasant spirit, the jade pipa spirit, and the 9-tailed fox spirit. In her role as the queen of demons, Nuwa instructs these spirits to go to Zhou, the Shang capital, and subtly disturb the people and weaken the Shang dynasty's destiny, without harming the populace. Meanwhile, ever since he saw Nuwa's statue, King Zhou has been restless, longing for beauties like her. His character in the novel is defined by debauchery, although historical records reveal that Zhu Guangdan, Duke of Zhou, fathered over 100 children, while King Zhou only had 2 sons. The Duke's accusations of moral corruption against King Zhou seem ironic. As King Zhou wallows in his discontent, a cunning minister named Fei Zhang suggests that he issue an edict to find beautiful women for his harem. He also mentions that Zhou Marquis Su has a daughter, Sudaji, who is known for her stunning beauty. At this point, Sudaji is a regular human. Many ministers would be eager for the chance to connect with the royal family, but Su, a fierce military officer, finds the edict shameful and refuses. In a fit of rage, he decides to rebel against the Shang dynasty. Upon learning this, King Zhou is furious. He considers marriage with the emperor to be an honor, so why does Su show such defiance? The king sends the northern marquis, Chong Ho-hu, to attack Zhou. As the 2 armies prepare to battle, Zibaho Chong, the Duke of Zhou, the one with 100 children, divines the situation and persuades Su to reconsider. Eventually, Su sends his daughter, Sudaji, to Zhou as an offering to the king. By now, the 3 spirits from Zhuan Yuan tomb have also caught wind of this plan. As Sudaji heads to Zhou, the 9-tailed fox spirit possesses her, taking over her body and soul. Now appearing as the captivating Sudaji, the 9-tailed fox arrives by King Zhou's side to carry out Nuwa's mission, to bring about the fall of the Shang dynasty. Since King Zhou of Shang laid eyes on Sudaji, who had been possessed by the 9-tailed fox, he quickly spiraled downward, entranced by her beauty. As his days became consumed with Sudaji, their affairs brought the king into utter ruin. Meanwhile, a Taoist named Yun Zongzi, who lived in Yuju Cave on Zhongnan Mountain, happened to pass through Zhou, the Shang capital, and saw a haze of demonic energy over the city. Yun Zongzi belonged to the Jian sect, one of the 8 main factions in the Investiture of the Gods. The Jian sect had a long-standing rivalry with the Jia sect, and their rivalry ran throughout the novel. The Jian sect ranked all beings by merit, sharing their knowledge only with the most worthy beings, which typically meant elite humans. In contrast, the Jia sect had an inclusive philosophy. As long as a being possessed spiritual potential, they could join, be they pigs, dogs, insects, snakes, plants, seeds, or even rocks. Thus, the Chan sect viewed the Jia sect with disdain, while the Jia sect remained indifferent. The Chan sect was led by Yuan Tianzun, while Tuan Zhaoju led the Jia sect. Finally, the newly emergent faction in the celestial world was led by the Grand Supreme Elder, Taishang Liaojun. These three powerful leaders were disciples of Hongjun Liaozu, the legendary ancestor of all. Seeing the demonic energy, Yun Zongzi brought a sword and met with King Zhou. The king, respectful of his divine status, listened attentively as Yun Zongzi advised, "There's dark energy in your harem. Hang my sword on the tree in your garden, and it will drive away any evil spirits." With that, Yun Zongzi departed. Fearful of demons, King Zhou obediently hung the sword in his garden. Soon after, Daji began to feel unwell and complained to King Zhou, "Your sword is so terrifying that it's made me ill." When the king heard this, he immediately burned the sword, unwilling to see his beloved suffer. With the sword gone, Daji felt emboldened to double down on her mission from Nuwa. Following Daji's counsel, King Zhou grew more violent and ruthless. He first executed his empress to make Daji the primary consort. Then, under her influence, he nearly executed his two sons. Fortunately, they were rescued just in time. Loyal ministers of Shang were also subjected to brutal punishments. For instance, Shang Rong, a steadfast minister, was so distraught that he committed suicide in court. Then there was Zhao Qi, who dared to criticize the king and was sentenced to the horrific punishment of Paolao, a method in which the victim was bound to a hollow bronze pillar with a fire inside, effectively roasting them alive. In the Investiture of the Gods, Paolao was said to be invented by Daji, though historical records attribute it to Jia, an infamous ruler of the Xia dynasty. Regardless of its origins, it was an unimaginably cruel punishment. With the king's increasingly sadistic rule, ministers began living in fear of making the slightest mistake, lest they incur the king's wrath. In the story, we've already met Northern Marquis Chang Ho-hu and Western Marquis Ji Chang. In the novel, there were 4 marquises overseeing the north, south, east, and west. They were Northern Marquis Chang Ho-hu, Western Marquis Ji Chang, Eastern Marquis Jiang Huanchu, and Southern Marquis Yi Chengyu. Jiang Huanchu, the Eastern Marquis, was the father of King Zhou's late empress, whom Daji had eliminated. With the encouragement of the treacherous Fei Zhang, King Zhou decided to eliminate the 4 marquises altogether. He summoned all 4 to Zioj. The Eastern Marquis Jiang Huanchu was a man of integrity and openly denounced King Zhou in court. Enraged, the king had him bound with giant nails, pinning him down while his body was cut to pieces. Yi Chengyu, the Southern Marquis, tried to intercede and had his hands chopped off for his efforts. Only Western Marquis Ji Chang and Northern Marquis Chang Ho-hu were spared. Chang Ho-hu, a cowardly sycophant, survived by flattering the king, while Ji Chang, adept at divination and the author of the I Ching, foresaw his own fate. Before coming to Zioj, Ji Chang warned his son, Bo Yi Cao, never to come for him if he was imprisoned. He foresaw that if Bo Yi Cao set foot in Zioj, it would be his doom, though he himself still had a glimmer of hope. On the journey to Zioj, Ji Chang encountered a heavy rain and a flash of lightning, where he discovered a young child on the road. Ji Chang adopted the child, and as it happened, Yun Zongzi, the very Taoist who had given King Zhou the sword, passed by and said, "This child is extraordinary. Let me raise him and teach him Taoist arts, and I'll return him to you one day." With 2 marquises dead and 1 terrified, Ji Chang chose not to stir further unrest, but was nonetheless imprisoned by King Zhou, who held him in captivity for 7 years. Now, one of the major figures of the Investiture of the Gods was about to enter the stage, Jang Zia, also known as Jiang Shang, or Taigong Wang in later years. He had served as a minor official in the Shang government, but with Daji's influence spreading misery throughout the kingdom, he chose to leave. Eventually, he sought refuge under Western Marquis Ji Chang. Jang Zia was a follower of the Chan sect, whose leader was Yuan Tianzun. After obtaining the canon of deification, he descended to the mortal world and sought out his sworn brother Song Yiren, eventually marrying a woman named Ma Shi. Thanks to Song Yiren's support, Jang Zia spent time in Zioj working various odd jobs, slaughtering animals, running a tavern, selling pastries, and even fortune-telling. One day, during his fortune-telling, he encountered the Jade Pipa spirit, one of the 3 demons from Zhuanyuan tomb, who decided to play tricks on him. But, as a Chan sect disciple, Jang Zia quickly recognized her true form as a demon and revealed her identity in front of King Zhou. While the king appreciated Jang Zia's talent, this incident earned him Daji's enmity. To eliminate Jang Zia, Daji drafted a blueprint for a pavilion and convinced the king to demand that Jang Zia build it. If he failed, he would be executed. Realizing he couldn't complete the project, Jang Zia escaped to the western land of Shiki using his earth summoning technique, arriving in Jichang's territory. After reaching Shiki, Jang Zia took up fishing along the Wei River. Contrary to the folk tale of Jang Zia fishing, only those who willingly take the hook will be caught. Jang Zia used a hook without bait and a straight pin instead of a curved hook. Only fish that bit down with force would get caught. But Jang Zia's true catch was still sitting in the Zhou prison. While Jang Zia was fishing, Western Marquis Jichang's son, Bo Yi Cao, ignored his father's warnings and set off for Zhou to rescue him, bringing along the 3 treasures of Shiki, the 7-sectioned carriage, the sober-up mat, and the white-faced gibbon. The 7-sectioned carriage was a relic from Emperor Xuanyuan's battle with Chayu. It needed no external force to move. If the rider said go east, it would automatically proceed east, completely obeying its driver. The sober-up mat could instantly sober anyone up, no matter how much they had drunk, as long as they lay down on it. The white-faced gibbon was able to play 3,000 songs and 800 ballads, plus it had fiery eyes that could see through the true forms of any demons, a trait also seen in Sun Wukong. Legends tell of 3 mythical beasts, the white-faced gibbon, Erlang Shen Yang Zhen's hound, and later, never-defeated General Huang Feihu's golden-eyed divine eagle. When Bo Yi Cao arrived in Zhou, he presented the 3 treasures to King Zhou, who was delighted, though Daji was even more so. Seeing Bo Yi Cao's handsome looks, elegant demeanor, and skillful music, she convinced the king to have Bo Yi Cao teach her how to play, so she could serenade the king herself. That night, as Bo Yi Cao taught Daji to play, she attempted to seduce him. But when he resisted, Daji falsely accused him of trying to assault her. Enraged, King Zhou ordered that Bo Yi Cao be made into meat pies, which he then sent to Jichang, still imprisoned. The king was aware that Jichang could foresee events, believing he would recognize the meat as his son's flesh and refuse to eat. However, Jichang, knowing exactly what the pie was made from, ate it in front of the king without hesitation. Impressed by Jichang's seeming indifference, King Zhou decided that keeping him locked up was pointless and sent him back to Shiki. Thus, Jichang was able to return to Shiki, albeit with the knowledge that he had eaten the flesh of his own son. On his way back, he narrowly escaped an assassination attempt, only to be saved by Li Zhenzi, the young boy he had adopted earlier. Upon returning to Shiki, Jichang was haunted by memories of his son Bo Yi Cao, and in his grief, he vomited up a rabbit. From then on, he began plotting his rebellion against the Shang. By the Wei River, he finally met the fishing Jang Zia. Jang Zia offered to serve Jichang under one condition, that Jichang personally pull him in his cart. If Jichang could pull him all the way back, Jang Zia would pledge loyalty. Although already elderly, Jichang managed to pull Jang Zia for 808 steps before giving out. Jang Zia accepted this, proclaiming, "Since you have pulled me for 808 steps, I will ensure that your Zhou dynasty lasts 808 years." With Jichang's son Jifa and Jang Zia both dedicated to the cause, Shiki quietly amassed strength. While they were growing in power, Daji added fuel to the fire at Zhou, aided by her sister, the 9-headed pheasant spirit, who possessed a woman named Tushmei, also a beautiful lady. Together, they served King Zhou nightly and eventually conspired to kill his uncle, Baigan, who was rumored to possess a 7-aperture heart of wisdom. According to legend, a 7-aperture heart grows in one person every 500 years. Daji and Hushmei pretended that Daji had fallen ill and could only recover by eating this rare heart. King Zhou, taking their word, killed his own uncle, Baigan, to retrieve it. With Baigan's death, the Shang populace reached a breaking point. Both the people and the ministers presented King Zhou with 10 suggestions, but he accepted only 7. The remaining 3 he dismissed, which were 1. Dismantling the Deer Terrace, his place of debauchery with Daji and Hushmei. 2. Banning Daji. 3. Dismissing Fei Zhang. Meanwhile, Shiki was fully prepared to strike. They first eliminated Northern Marquis Chong Ho Hu, leaving Western Marquis Jichang as the last of the 4 marquises. However, Jichang didn't live much longer and soon passed away, leaving his son Jifa in charge of the increasingly powerful Shiki. At Zhou, Daji struck again by orchestrating the deaths of never-defeated General Huang Feihu's wife and sister, forcing him to rebel and seek refuge in Shiki. King Zhou's troops pursued Huang Feihu to Shiki, and with that, the political drama ended. This marked the official beginning of the investiture of the gods' celestial showdown, with the grand chaos of the gods about to unfold. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for more. If there are any mythological stories from China you'd like to learn about, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll create a video to help you out. See you next time.